Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. Value is not in what you say, it's in what you do. The strongest statement you will ever make is not with words, but with your actions. You don't have to convince a man, a boss, or the world of your worth. Your presence, your consistency, and your grind will speak for you. See, too many people think value is about how much you talk, how much you explain yourself, how much you prove your worth verbally. But real value, that's in what you do when nobody's watching. That's in the way you carry yourself, the way you handle business, the way you respect yourself. If a man can't see your worth, you don't need to scream it, you need to show it. When you operate in excellence, when you walk in confidence, when you respect yourself, the right people will take notice and the wrong people will remove themselves. That's the power of silent value. Let's talk about consistency. People love to talk a big game, but it's not what you say that people remember. It's what you do day in and day out. If you say you're hardworking but always late to work, what do you think people believe? If you say you're reliable but never follow through, do you think your words matter? They don't, because consistency is what makes people trust you. The truth is, consistency is rare. Most people start strong, but they don't finish. They'll give their best effort for a week, maybe even a month, but then life gets in the way and they start slacking. They start making excuses. But the people who prove their value, they don't just show up once in a while. They show up every single day. You want to prove your worth. Be the person who shows up. Be the person who delivers. Not once, not twice, but every time. Think about an athlete training for the Olympics. Do you think they just wake up and decide to be great one day? No, they show up every morning, even when they don't feel like it. They push themselves even when no one is watching. They don't need to tell the world they're dedicated. Their work shows it. And when the time comes, when they're standing in front of the world, their performance speaks louder than any words ever could. It's the same in life, whether it's in relationships, in business, in personal growth. Your consistency will always reveal your value. If you're trying to prove to someone that you're a good partner, a good friend, a good employee, don't waste your breath telling them. Just be it. Let your actions make the statement for you. Let's say you're in a relationship and you feel like your partner isn't appreciating you. A lot of people in this situation would start complaining, saying things like, you don't see what I do for you. I go out of my way for you, or I do everything. And you don't even notice. But here's the thing. Real value doesn't have to beg for attention. Instead of talking about what you do, just keep being who you are. If they're the right person, they will notice. And if they don't, that tells you everything you need to know. Or maybe you're at work and you feel overlooked. You see others getting promotions, getting recognized, and you're wondering why no one sees your effort. This is where consistency separates you. Because in the short term, people might not notice. But over time, the person who is always prepared, always reliable, always delivering, that person becomes undeniable. You don't have to say a word because eventually your results will do all the talking. Now, consistency doesn't mean perfection. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have times when you fall short. But the key is to keep showing up, keep proving your value, not with promises, but with persistence. Because the truth is, the people who matter, the ones who truly see you, will recognize that. And let me tell you something else. The people who only respond to words, the ones who need you to explain yourself constantly, who only seem to value you when you remind them of what you do, those people were never really paying attention in the first place. The ones who truly see value don't need an announcement. They don't need a speech. They see it in the way you move, in the way you handle yourself, in the way you deliver without needing credit every single time. That's power. That's what makes you stand out. So stop talking, start doing, and watch how the world starts listening. Confidence is silent. Insecurity is loud. The loudest person in the room is usually the weakest. The one constantly explaining themselves, constantly trying to prove their worth, constantly seeking validation, that's not confidence. That's insecurity disguised as strength. True confidence doesn't beg for attention. It doesn't need to announce itself. It just exists, and people recognize it without a word being spoken. Think about the people you respect the most. The ones who walk into a room and command attention without even trying. They don't have to be the loudest. They don't have to boast about their achievements. They don't have to convince you of their greatness because they already know it for themselves. And that energy, that presence, it speaks louder than words ever could. Now, let's talk about why insecurity is loud. Insecurity needs validation. It needs constant reassurance. It needs to be seen, heard, and acknowledged at all times because deep down, it doesn't believe in itself. That's why some people feel the need to constantly remind others of their value, always pointing out what they've done, always looking for credit. But real confidence doesn't need credit. Real confidence knows its worth. And because of that, it doesn't have to prove anything to anyone. There's a difference between someone who knows their worth and someone who's trying to convince others of it. The person who knows their worth moves differently. They don't chase, they attract. They don't beg for attention. They receive it naturally. They don't try to prove themselves. They let their actions do the talking. The ones who don't know their worth, on the other hand, are always trying to force people to see it. And that desperation, that's what pushes people away. Look at relationships. A person who is confident in themselves doesn't have to chase love. They don't have to beg someone to see their value. They don't need to constantly ask, do you love me? Do you appreciate me? Do you see what I do for you? Because they already know their worth. And they know that if someone doesn't recognize it, that's not a reflection of them. That's a reflection of the other person, but an insecure person. They're constantly seeking reassurance. They need to be told again and again that they matter. And that's what makes people pull away. The same goes for work. The confident person doesn't need to remind their boss every single day how hard they work. They just work hard. They just show up and do their job. And eventually their results speak for themselves. But the insecure person, they're always talking about how much they do, how underappreciated they are, how they deserve more recognition. And the more they talk, the less people listen. Because when you truly bring value, people notice. And when you don't, no amount of talking will change that. True confidence comes from within. It's not something you can fake. It's not about acting tough, being arrogant, or putting others down to make yourself feel better. It's about knowing who you are, standing firm in that, and not needing anyone else to validate it for you. That's the kind of confidence that makes people respect you. That's the kind of confidence that draws people in without you having to say a word. You walk with confidence, people feel it. It's in your posture, the way you carry yourself, the way you handle situations. Confident people don't overreact. They don't get defensive. They don't feel the need to prove themselves every time someone questions them because they know that who they are is enough. The insecure person, on the other hand, reacts to everything. They take every little thing personally. They constantly need to explain themselves. They overcompensate, trying to convince people they're smart, they're worthy, they're valuable. And ironically, the more they try to prove it, the less people believe it. Because confidence isn't something you talk about, it's something you show. Think about a lion. A lion doesn't have to roar all day to prove it's the king of the jungle. It just is. It moves with power. It doesn't chase approval. It doesn't try to convince anyone of its strength. And because of that, every animal in the wild respects it. Now, compare that to a little dog that barks at everything that moves. The little dog isn't a threat, and deep down it knows it. That's why it makes so much noise. That's exactly how people are. The ones who are always talking, always trying to prove themselves, always desperate to be recognized. They're not as strong as they pretend to be. But the ones who move with quiet confidence, they don't need to convince anyone of anything. That's why people respect them. Confidence is knowing you belong in the room without having to announce it. It's knowing your value without having to remind people of it. It's understanding that if someone doesn't see your worth, that's not your problem. That's theirs. It's walking away from situations that don't serve you because you know you deserve better without needing to explain why. And that's the kind of confidence that will change your life. Because when you truly know your worth, the right people will recognize it. The right opportunities will find you. The right relationships will come to you. You won't have to force anything. You won't have to prove anything. You'll simply be. And that's the most powerful thing you can ever do. The right people will notice. That's something you've got to understand. In life, you don't need to chase recognition, force people to see your value, or beg someone to appreciate you. When you truly bring something valuable to the table, the right people will see it. The ones who don't, they were never meant to. And that's not your loss, it's theirs. Too many people waste time trying to convince the wrong people of their worth. They stay in relationships where they're not valued, hoping that one day their partner will wake up and see how special they are. They work jobs where they're overlooked, thinking that if they just work a little harder, someone will finally appreciate them. They keep people in their lives who take them for granted, believing that if they just explain their worth enough times, those people will finally start treating them right. Why not? Here's the truth. If someone doesn't see your value, it's not because you're not valuable. It's because they're not meant to see it. And that's okay. Not everyone is going to recognize what you bring to the table. Not everyone is going to appreciate the way you show up, the effort you put in, the energy you bring. But the ones who are meant to, they won't need convincing. They won't need explanations. They will see you for who you are without you having to say a word. Think about a diamond. A diamond doesn't have to prove it's valuable. It doesn't have to tell people, hey, I'm rare, I'm precious, I'm worth a lot. People who understand its value already know. And the people who don't, they'll walk right past it without realizing what they just missed. That's how life works. If someone doesn't see your worth, you don't lower your value. You move on and let the right people find you. Now, that doesn't mean you just sit back and do nothing. You still have to put in the work. You still have to be excellent. You still have to be someone worth recognizing. What you don't have to do is beg for recognition. You don't have to prove yourself to people who refuse to see you. If you're doing everything right and someone still doesn't value you, that's a sign it's not your job to make them see it. It's your job to walk away and position yourself where you are valued. This applies to relationships more than anything. How many people are out here trying to prove to someone that they're worth loving? How many people stay in situations where they're not appreciated, hoping that if they just love harder, try harder, give more, that person will finally wake up and love them the way they deserve? But love doesn't work that way. If someone truly sees you, you won't have to convince them of your worth. What they will tell you, they will just know. They will recognize the way you show up, the way you care, the way you bring something different. And if they don't, that's not your person. People will always value what they choose to value. You could give someone the world, and if they don't appreciate it, it won't matter. You could be the most loyal, loving, supportive person in the world, and if they're not in a place to see that, you will still be overlooked. But none of that is a reflection of you. It's a reflection of them. And once you truly understand that, you stop wasting time trying to be seen by the wrong people. The same thing happens in careers. Some people work for years in companies that don't recognize their efforts. They put in extra hours, take on extra work, prove time and time again that they are reliable. But instead of being appreciated, they are ignored. And instead of realizing that this is not the place for them, they keep trying harder, hoping that one day someone will finally notice. But the right workplace, the right boss, the right company, they'll see your value without you having to shout for it. They'll recognize the consistency, the work ethic, the dedication, and if they don't, it's time to move on to a place that does. A lot of people think if they just try harder, they can make people see their worth, but that's not how it works. The right people will notice not because you're forcing them to, but because they are already looking for someone like you. They are already prepared to appreciate what you bring. They are already open to recognizing the qualities you have. Think about friendships. A real friend doesn't need constant reminders of what you do for them. They don't need you to prove your loyalty over and over again. They see the way you show up. They see the way you support them. They recognize your value not because you told them, but because you consistently demonstrate it. Fake friends, on the other hand, they will take you for granted. They will forget what you've done the moment they don't need you anymore, and no amount of explaining will change that. This is why the most powerful thing you can do is be yourself, be excellent, and let the right people find you. Stop chasing, stop proving, stop convincing. Just be who you are and know that the people who are meant to recognize your value will. If someone doesn't, it's not your job to change their mind. It's your job to keep moving forward until you find the ones who do. When you understand this, you stop taking rejection personally. You stop feeling like you're not good enough just because someone didn't appreciate you. Stop wasting time trying to win over people who were never meant for you in the first place. Instead, you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, knowing that the right people, the right opportunities, and the right relationships will recognize that. Nothing valuable forces itself to be seen. A great artist doesn't go door to door begging people to appreciate their work. They create, and the world takes notice. A successful business doesn't chase customers down the street screaming about how great they are. They provide value, and the right customers come to them. A strong, confident person doesn't spend all their time trying to convince people to respect them. They carry themselves with dignity, and respect follows. So instead of trying to prove yourself, just be yourself. Instead of chasing validation, focus on being excellent. Instead of begging to be seen, focus on standing out in a way that can't be ignored. Because the right people, they won't need a speech. They won't need an explanation. They will see you and they will know exactly what you're worth.